So once you've used your curve tool to accurately measure your material thickness, we'll use this piece here as an example. So this example piece measures at 0.199 inches. So we're going to take this measurement and we're going to adjust our drawing to fit that measurement. And this will allow us to get a perfect fit on our joints. So coming into Inkscape here, we're going to look at our example project here. And in this example, we're going to show how to resize this rectangle and how to resize these slots here to allow other parts to fit inside of them. But before we change anything, I like to select all of our objects by drawing a box around it. And we'll come up to your menu here for objects, and then we want to go to fill and stroke. And this will open up your fill and stroke menu over here. We want to make sure the fill is set to none. We'll make the stroke the solid, and then the stroke style, we want to change the width of our lines here to be a nice fine line. So we want to change this to pixels. So we want to go to here and click the PX, which would be pixels. And we're going to change the width here to 0.25 and then click enter to accept that. And you can see our objects now are a little bit harder to see, but now they're going to have a nice fine line that we can adjust very accurately. So first, let's take a look at the rectangle. So I'm going to hold my control key on my keyboard and use the scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in closer. And you can see now it's much easier to see. So we're going to select our rectangle. And when you select the shape at the top here, it's going to show you the X and Y location of the shape, as well as the width and the height of the shape. But we are also in pixels here, so we want to change this to inches. So click this here and scroll up until you find IN, which would be inches. So click that. And you can see our height is 0.159 inches, but we're going to match our curve tool, and that was 0.199. So we can change this measurement here. So all we have to do is select this. Also, we want to make sure our dimensions are unlocked by showing this unlock symbol here. This will only adjust the height and not adjust the width. If it's locked here, it'll adjust both at the same time. So we only want to adjust the height. So we're going to select this and type in 0.199 and click enter. And if you've seen down here, it kept the top position where it's at, and it moved only the bottom of the rectangle down to our 0.199 inches. Now that's okay if that's what you want it to do, but if we zoom out here, you can see that's going to move our rectangle down a little bit, and it's going to off-center our rectangle inside of our shape. So I'll show you how we can keep the center position there. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that. Now we're back to our 0.159 inches. And instead of using this tool up here, we're going to go to Object. We're going to come down to Transform, and over here will open up your Transform panel, and we want to do Scale. And for our scale units here, we're going to switch this to inches, and you can see we have our width and height here. We want to make sure we're not scaled proportionally, so we're going to keep that unchecked. So we're going to change our height here to 0.199, and then come down here, click Apply. And if you've seen there, it adjusted the top and bottom at the same time. So now that'll keep this object centered inside of our rectangle there. So that's how easy it is to resize a simple rectangle. And now when we cut this with our laser, this should fit our material perfectly inside because we used our curve tool to measure that. Now let's take a look at resizing the slots. So I'm going to hold my control key, zoom out, and then zoom up here to our slots. And now if we select this object here, you can see this is all combined together. So this is a little bit more complicated to adjust, but it's not too difficult. So the first thing we have to do is break these slots apart from our outer shape here. So to do that, we're going to double click on our line to go into the node edit mode here. You can also do that here by clicking this icon here. And then now when we come down here, you can see these points here in the corners of all of our shape here. So what we want to do is disconnect our points at the corners. So we're going to select the point here, and that's going to highlight that point. And then at the top here, you can see this icon here. If you hover over it, it says break path at selected nodes. So just click that, and that's going to break the path there. Now if you were to select a node there and move it, you can see now these are disconnected. So that's what we want to do. But we don't want to move them like that, so I'm going to undo that, Control Z to undo. And now I'm going to select this node here, and we can also select multiple at a time by holding the Shift key and select all these nodes we want to break here, and come over here to break selected nodes here. And now that we broke apart the slots that we want to edit, we can go back into our selection mode here by selecting the first icon here. And now we can select our object, but you can see if we try to move this, it's still all connected together. So I'm going to undo that. So now we want to break apart the shape. So to do that, we want to go to Path, and then come down here to Break Apart. So select that. And now you can see that sometimes fills in with a color there. So to get rid of that color, we can go back to our Fill and Stroke panel and go to Fill and select No Fill here. And now we come over here. And now if we select just the slot here, you can see now they're broken apart here where we can edit the slots. So I'm going to undo that to move them back there. Now if your slots are aligned together here, like mine are here, you can select both of them and adjust the height at the same time. Otherwise, you can adjust the heights one at a time. So in this case, I'll adjust the heights at the same time. So to do that, we're going to do just like we did our rectangle. We can either do up here if you want to keep the top location where it's at. And then to scale from the center, we can use our transform tool here. So our scale tool, we're going to set just the height. But you can see our measurements are still set up from the last time we used this. So we want to make sure we're using our proper measurements here. So our height is exactly where we want it, 0.199 inches, but we have to make sure our width matches what we have up here. So our width with our two selected objects is currently 2.25 inches. So we want to change that here to 2.25 inches. And now that'll match exactly what we want. So let's click Apply. And there you can see it scaled from the center and it kept our width where we want it. And now if we deselect, you can see now we have the lines are overlapping on the top and bottom. So now we want to connect those lines back together. So to do that, there's a few ways you can do this. Let's select the bottom here. And we want to make sure your snap settings are on the right hand side here. And then if you select this handle up here and click and drag, you can see on the right there, it's going to snap to our node there. And now they are aligned perfectly there, but they are still disconnected. We still have to connect those together, but they are touching now. And we can do the same thing for the top there. Just click and drag until it snaps there. But I'm going to undo that. I'll show you one other way to do this, just in case you need to use this option. So we're going to hold our Shift key and select the objects that we want to connect there. We're going to go to our node edit mode here again. And now we can zoom in here. And all we have to do is click the node we want to move and drag it until it snaps to the other one. And now they are touching together there. They're still not connected. They're only touching. And now let's zoom out and do the same thing over here. Click and drag, and now they're snapped together. Now we want to connect those together. So to do that, we're going to draw a box around these two. That's going to select both of those nodes. And then we want to come up here and click this button here where it says Join Selected Nodes. And that's going to join those together. And now when we click this node and move it, you can see it moves both lines at the same time. So I'm going to undo that to move that back. And then we're going to come to the other side here, do the same thing, draw a box around the two selections there, and click Join Selected Nodes. And then we're going to come down here. We're going to select our bottom object. And then we're going to select both of our nodes in the corner there and click Join. And then come over to the other side, do the same thing, draw a box around these, and click Join Nodes. And now we're going to hold Control and zoom out. And now you can see we have nodes on all four corners here, and now they are all connected together. So let's go back to our selection tool. And now you can see if we try to move these, now it's all connected together. And that's all we have to do there to adjust the height of the node and connect it back to our original shape. Now we'll take a quick look at how to create your own notch inside of your project. So to do that, we want to use our rectangle tool. And we're going to just click and drag a box here. Doesn't matter the size. Just make any size rectangle about the size you want it. And then we can adjust on the top here. So I'm going to switch this to inches. So I'm going to come up here to inches. And we want to change our width. Let's say if we wanted a 1 inch wide. So we'll enter 1 inch. And our height, we want to match the 0.199 inches. And we'll click Enter. And now that I adjusted our shape here, so we can move this by using our selection tool. And we're just going to move it to the inside of our box here. And then with this object selected, we're going to hold the Shift key and select our outer shape here. And now we want to align this object with the edge of this object. So to do that, we're going to go to Object, and then we're going to come down to Align and Distribute. And that's going to open up this Align and Distribute panel over here. So with these objects selected, we want to select this icon here that aligns to the right side. So select that, and that'll align it to the right side there. And if you wanted it on the left side, just click left over here, and it'll align over here. So you can do that top, bottom, left, right, wherever you want to align it. And now that we have this aligned, if you wanted another one on the other side, we would just select this rectangle here. We can right click and copy, right click and paste. And we have another one here, but we want this aligned with this one. So with this below this shape, we're going to hold the Shift key and select this one. So now they're both selected. And we want to click this one here to align to the top. So it's going to align the edges at the top. And now we're going to deselect. And now we're going to select the one we want to move here and hold Shift and select our outer shape. And we're going to align it to the right side. So we're going to click this one here to align to the right. And now we have our objects set there. So now the only thing we have to do is select our object, stretch the edge slightly past our outer shape there. Do that on both sides. Doesn't matter how far, just as long as it's past the line there. And now we want to get rid of all of this here that's overlapping to produce our notch there. And to do that, we want to do one side at a time. So we're going to select our notch, hold our Shift key, select the outer shape. Now we have both selected. We're going to go to Path, and then we're going to go to Difference. And you can see that got rid of everything outside there. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Select our notch, hold your Shift key, select the outer shape, go to Path, and go to Difference. And there we go. Now that got rid of there. Now we have our notches set to the exact measurements that we entered there. And we can zoom out here and take a look. And that's how you can adjust and create notches to fit your material using your Curve tool.